Hello and welcome to Fowl Plays, where we look at tales of tabletop tragedy that are sure to ruffle some feathers. I'm your host, Boss Goose, and in today's story, we have part 2 of the Murderhobo saga as we rejoin OP and their party, and learn how toxic the environment at the table is towards trans people. They are then joined by a second group of players and attempt to once again break into the bank to steal a powerful magical artifact, only to have their plans ruined once again by the same player as before, who dies in combat, and when they aren't chosen to be resurrected, flips out and assaults OP in real life, shocking everyone in the room before getting kicked out of the building. This is going to be a rough one, so before we get started, let's cleanse our palate with a quick game. I was cleaning out the old goose den the other day when I uncovered 2 identical treasure chests, and I want to share one with you. One is filled with gold, jewels, and assorted magical trinkets that you would typically find in your run-of-the-mill treasure chest. The other is a subscribe mimic who, if disturbed, will gobble up everything in its way unless you hit that subscribe button and return the beast to a satisfied slumber. So go ahead and make your choice in 3, 2, 1, and there you go. If you chose option A, congratulations on your newfound wealth and 1% status. Go ahead and put in a gold-plated swimming pool when you get a chance. And if you chose option B, hurry up and hit that subscribe button to join the Goose Gang, get all your updates on when new D&D videos are available on my channel, and most importantly, stop that monster from having you for dinner. Now, without any further delays, take your seats and wet your beaks as we dive on into today's tale. Hi everyone, here I am with the second part of the tale of why I stopped playing D&D. Thank you all for your interest in the previous part. I have found that reading your comments and opinions and chatting to some of you in the DMs has been really helpful for me to work through some of the feelings I've been having around starting D&D again, and I really do appreciate it. So let's crack on, shall we? Trigger warnings: assault, conversations about rape, violence, and transphobia. In the last section, I wrote about how my party did a 180 during a bank heist, and instead of making our way down into the vaults to steal a magical life gem, they decided to take on the entire garrison for a bit of petty cash. That session ended with me and 2 other party members being forced to escape the town with our tails between our legs. Now outlaws, we would have to find a new way of getting into the vaults. Here's a link to that if you want to read it. We spent 2 sessions after this train wreck doing minor quests while James and Harry refused to play with us. James because he wanted us to get the magical life restoring gem first, and Harry because he was mad that we let his character sit in a prison cell. We spent those 2 weeks trying to figure out a way that we could get these party members back, because other than their characters being one-dimensional murder hobos, their players were seemingly nice enough people. And who am I to judge someone based upon the actions of their characters? One evening, during a very successful session where Hank, Bacon, and I managed to level our characters a little, I found a bag with another membership gem for the bank in the wreckage of a caravan. We decided to try to figure out the reason behind its destruction. Long story short, we came across a band of goblins and rescued the head of the caravan, who thanked us greatly, and we asked if tales of our good deeds could be spread around instead of us receiving a monetary reward, which he said was more than acceptable, and still pressed a bag full of silver upon Hank. Now, while we're having our group sessions, Harry had been having one-on-one sessions with the DM about his days in the Slammer, and our 4th group session was rapidly approaching. One evening, I get a message from the DM. He's created a group chat with our group. Hey guys, so I have another party doing quests in this world and was wondering if you guys would be okay with me trying to intertwine the storylines, or whether you would rather stay as is. Interested? We decide, yeah, why not? Let's give it a go. Now, here I have to stop a moment and describe the DM and his playstyle. Gordon was a monster of a man, standing at 6'7" on those odd occasions that he did just that. He also was enormous, probably weighing in excess of 200 kilograms. That's 440 pounds for those of you who don't know kilograms. I have mentioned before that Gordon knew his shit when it came to his world, and I will always bow down to the amount of effort that guy put into his world building. But fuck did the guy hate us changing the direction of his story. Sure, a bank heist can go wrong, but if we're getting too far off track, he would find a way of pulling us into the direction he wanted, and 9 times out of 10, it wasn't subtle. On one fateful day, a few players and I met a stranger on the road to a castle or something that we wanted to investigate. Well, this stranger quizzed us with a number of questions, of which we got 2 wrong. We were then attacked by this man, who transformed in front of our eyes into a mythical golden dragon. which damaged us all and proceeded to transport us into an underground labyrinth which took us about 20 hours of playtime to escape. We never got to the castle. Another time, I had been desperate to get my character a horse, so we went to his stables where I found this tiny dwarf pony. I immediately wanted it. I rolled well on persuasion and convinced the stable hand to sell her to me. I paid the man and went on my way with Epona, my new dwarf pony. Well, the following session, Gordon decided that he didn't want the wizard to have a pony, because he didn't like the fact that my character insisted on riding it, and because its legs were so short, my legs would drag on the ground after my pony. Calling me and my character stupid, he decided that enough was enough. Gordon engineered a situation where yet another massively overpowered monster came and killed my horse completely randomly. Some wyvern flew off with her, landed in a field, and the DM took great care in describing the head being ripped off my pony. R.I.P. Epona. We may not have had long, but I loved you dearly. Nothing, however, could possibly measure up to Gordon's homophobia, transphobia, and racism. Now, I won't go into my life too much because that's not why you're here, but I am gender fluid. This basically means that sometimes I feel more feminine and dress that way, and other times more masculine and dress that way. My birth sex is completely unimportant to me, and I will present how I like. The key thing to note here is that when dressed in either direction, it can be very difficult to tell which way I was originally assigned at birth. Well, Gordon hated this, and would constantly ask me what genitals I had, or would make nasty jokes, and a couple of occasions make a joke to the extent of, "What if we all just grab you, hold you down, and find out?" Yeah, that's not a joke, that's assault. But I let this all slide because I was new in town and was desperate for friends. And all this aside, he was joking, right? So session 4 rolls around and we once again make our way to the DM's house. Due to traffic, I am late, not massively late like the first session, but they have definitely been waiting for me for a little while. Right from the first moment I entered, I felt like the atmosphere in the room was a little off, like I had just walked in after someone had been talking about me. I tried to ignore this and said hi with about as much enthusiasm as I could muster, walking in a little awkwardly to a room full of people. Now, there were 9 people in that room, not including myself, and I sat down with my party on one side of the large dining table, apologized for my lateness, and got my stuff out. So our new party was as follows, and I will now add a little extra information about some of the players that I feel like I need to add at this point. Gordon, our DM. My character, Oni, a half-elf wizard. I'm just over 6 foot, hitting 6'1" on a good day, slim as you like, and maybe a little bit of a pushover at times. Hank, an elven druid. The player was 6'4", slightly overweight, loveliest man you'll ever meet, covered in tattoos. Bacon, a halfling ranger. Unimportant. Harry, a dwarf fighter. The player was 6'4", a bit of a unit, beard and tattoos, mohawk. Party 2. Homer, tiefling rogue. I don't remember much about his backstory, but I know he wanted to play a mysterious stranger. Tiny skinny dude IRL. He had a strong Eastern European accent that made role-playing just excellent, and he was absolutely obsessed with anime. Bob, human monk, a religious man brought to adventuring by the burning of his monastery, dedicated to finding those who did it and bringing them to justice in the eyes of his god. The player was always one bad day away from upping sticks and becoming an IRL monk. Not sure where he is these days, perhaps he did just that. Dom, halfling healer. I don't think I was ever informed of his backstory, or if it even ever came up during play. It was almost like his character came into being as he joined this monster of a party. Giant, orc ranger. The player was the tallest person I have ever met, nearing 7 foot tall, and he clearly modeled his character after himself. The orc was meant to be massive and a bit of a lovable idiot, while also being quite intelligent. He was always a fun player to roleplay with. Stinky, dwarf barbarian. His backstory was that he was a dwarf tired of mining that decided to find his place in the world. I was happy with his backstory, but holy crap, the player stunk. I don't want to be impolite, but whatever he touched ended up with a stink that no amount of Febreze could fix. I would have been able to tolerate this if his attitude didn't stink as bad as he did, but he isn't really important for this story at the moment. So we start this session with me finding a way into a tavern in the next town over, where my companions are waiting outside. News of our good deed on the road is traveled, and 2 travelers, Giant and Stinky, offer me a drink. We exchanged tales of our travels, and they mentioned that they heard a band of 5 adventurers who tried to rob the World Bank, and how there was a massive bounty on bacon. I explained the situation, and they leave to meet up with the rest of their band. For the next 5 real-life hours, we spend bouncing between each party for an hour or so, with the second party making their way to the bank to try and rob it using a gem I lent them, and our party working on the getaway, as we couldn't be seen in the bank again. During the new heist, Harry made a situation known to all of us that during one of his one-on-ones with the DM, he had escaped from the prison. How did he let us know this? Well, he tried to hold up the fucking bank again during the heist. Yes, friends, he picked this exact moment, now that there was a larger number of us, most of us higher leveled, and now with a healer, to decide that he wanted revenge on the gnomes. My character is outside when I see once again guards flooding into the bank from all directions. Bacon and Hank, who are scoping out the side entrances, come tearing around the corner and run into the bank. I follow in at a fair pace because I already had spent a couple of weeks hearing no end of insults from Harry for leaving them last time, and find absolute pandemonium upon entry. Our board in the center of the table with all of our characters is almost unreadable. There is guards and players everywhere. Everyone rolls for initiative, and we start the longest encounter I have ever been in. It took probably 3 real-life hours to complete, and it was well past midnight when finally the dust settled and we got to see what was left. The details of the fight itself aren't important. We were at the vault of the fabled gem, having battled through a ridiculous labyrinth. Bacon, Homer, and Harry were dead. My character needed healing and everyone else was a little worse for wear. But finally, we had a break in the action and could get the gem. The door into the vault needed a gnome's handprint. Well, we had one of those. A dead gnome on the floor gave us that. And after holding his hand against the metal of the door, we were inside. And here is where everything went south. No one wanted to go into the room in case there were traps, and Detect Magic showed an overwhelming amount of magic obscuring everything else because of the gem. So I decided, what the hell, crossed the room and picked up the life gem with an ungloved hand. And because I was the one who picked it up with bare skin, a crowd of ghosts appeared in front of me. Gnomes, a few guards, and finally, my 3 fallen companions. Gordon said to me in his best ethereal voice, "Those who died and those who live, parted from one another by a sheet. Part that sheet and make your choice. Who shall be the rescued voice?" I had to make a decision as to who I should bring back from the dead. James at this point had been forgotten, and now I had 3 of my party members pleading for their lives. Only one wasn't pleading. Harry was making threats, telling me if I didn't do it, he would hurt me. I took this as a joke and began to deliberate. I was wishing I hadn't been the one to pick the gem up. Do I pick the person who fucked up 2 different heists and caused 4 player deaths? Do I pick Bacon, who, safe to say, hasn't really achieved anything of note? Or do I pick Homer, who had done a good job with a number of traps and who was basically saying, "I don't mind what you do. I'll just roll a new character if I die"? Now, I don't know what you would have done in this scenario, and I'm sure that some of you will tell me what I should have done better. I did get a number of DMs after my last section telling me where I went wrong and how I could have improved. I appreciate the constructive criticism, but this time, I picked Homer. Now, the reaction I got was, let's say, less than positive. Homer's original party cheered. Hank cheered. Bacon crossed his arms and said, "Fuck's sakes." Harry stood up and suddenly sent the board flying. Our character pieces, counters, dice, loot tokens went everywhere. He walked around the table to where I sat, grabbed me by the throat, and dragged me from my seat. "Didn't I tell you that I'd fucking hurt you?" I had flashing lights in my vision as I gasped for air. The whole room looked stunned by his actions, and no one seemed to know what to do. After what felt to me like an eternity, but probably was only about 5 seconds, Hank was the first to react and grabbed Harry, pulling him off me. They grappled like 2 polar bears fighting over a seal, before Gordon stood up, casting an enormous shadow over the scene as he blocked all light like a furious eclipse. He shouted for Harry to get out. Harry pointed at me. Once again, I'm not going to do a voice for this, nor say the words, because this guy is truly a monster. "You gonna take that effing creature's side, disgusting F?" I was on the floor, shocked that such a thing could have happened over a game of D&D. Still gasping for air while Giant, Homer, and Bob got up to help me. Gordon roared and took an enormous step forward, and Harry turned and stormed out. And in the commotion, Bacon disappeared without anyone noticing him going. I didn't want to call the police, despite a few of them insisting that I should. Who was going to take me serious? I just got throttled because I didn't revive this person's D&D character. I was shaken and would like to say that a few tears didn't leave my eyes, but that would be a lie. The session ended, and I drove home, making sure to check all the doors and windows of my house were locked and closed, in case he wanted to take it even further. Thankfully, however, I never saw him ever again. It was a few weeks before I rejoined the party, on the assurance that Harry would never step foot in Gordon's house ever again. But unfortunately, this wasn't the end of my negative experiences with this group. Thanks for reading. Holy crap, that was horrific. It's no wonder OP eventually decided to quit D&D if this was the experience they had last time they played. There's a ton of stuff to tackle here, but let's go ahead and start with the mild things and work our way up. First, the pony. If a player wants to have a pet or a small horse or whatever, and it's not hurting anything else, there's no reason to go out of your way to kill it. It's a dick move, and there's other ways you can deal with it if it's bothering you. Ask the player if they can keep it at a stable. Maybe a friendly NPC would be willing to take care of it. There are a lot of other options. I appreciate all the hard work that DMs do, and it sounds like Gordon did put a lot of work into his world, but a pony is not going to derail the campaign, and at the end of the day, it's not just his story. Everyone at the game table affects how things unfold and what develops in the world, and that's really the essence of D&D. Otherwise, you might as well play a video game. So next point, the DM, while doing the right thing at the end of the story, is by no means innocent. It sounds like he was a big part of what fostered the kind of environment that allowed someone like Harry to think that transphobia and assault were no big deal. It's not a joke to say you're going to hold someone down and expose them for everyone to see. It's sexual assault, and it's never funny. OP put up with way more than anyone should ever have to. I know they were new to the area and were trying to make friends, but with some exceptions, these are the kind of people that you don't need in your life. That being said, the joking is small potatoes compared to what Harry did. It's beyond me that he thought it was acceptable to lay his hands on someone else like that no matter what the reason. But doing so over something in-game is absolutely ridiculous. Thank goodness there was enough people in that room to put a stop to what was happening, with a special shout out to Hank for acting so quickly. And despite what he may or may not think on the subject, Gordon did the right thing by throwing Harry out of the apartment. I'm really glad OP wasn't attacked further, but I do think they definitely should have reported the incident to the police. The circumstances may have been strange, but what Harry did was a crime, no doubt. And the fact that OP was worried enough to check the windows and doors when they got home just further highlights the seriousness of the whole incident. I'm not sure what future issues OP alluded to that develop with this group, but I'll definitely be reading the next story in this sordid saga, and fingers crossed it's nothing as bad as this. And I hope everyone who reads or listens to this sends their support to OP. But anyway, thanks for checking out my video and sticking around till the end. I hope you enjoyed it. I upload new content every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday, so make sure you check out my channel for more D&D stories. And if you like this video, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and leave me a goosebump in the comments below. The support is greatly appreciated. But until next time, be good players.